Pipebomb Radio.
What?
With your hosts, Felix Olmedo and Austin James.
This voice, this is power. In anybody else's hands, this is a microphone. In my hands, it's a pipe bomb. It's showtime! Woo!
Well, hello and welcome everybody to an early edition of Pipebomb Radio today. Just after a roller coaster of emotional feelings that we felt at WrestleMania. My goodness, I never thought I'd live to see the day that the legendary streak of one of my heroes actually ended this past Sunday. We'll get more into that either later on in the show or possibly as we bring on the guests. Austin actually was lucky enough to get to go and be there live. I'm kind of glad I didn't get to go, because to be able to witness something like that at the end of an era, I don't think I could have. I think it definitely upset a lot of people. It definitely broke a lot of hearts, hurt a lot of fans. Not necessarily on purpose, but for the man to carry such a historic streak for over 20 years, and to know that this was his choice. Although I don't like it, I respect it. And I hope deep down, I really do hope that Brock Lesnar really understands just how lucky he is that he was chosen to end it. Out of all the people he's faced over the years, or all he could have faced, it was Brock Lesnar to end it. Do I like it? No. I accept it. Now, with that, most are assuming The Undertaker will wind down his career and possibly even retire. Most are even saying they don't want to see, then there's no point in seeing Sting versus Undertaker. Well, I have to disagree with that. They could still have a great match, and the fact is, the streak that he's led, 21 straight WrestleMania victories, is still a historic streak that nobody will ever touch, or even come close to. And the fact that they could make next year's WrestleMania the WrestleMania you thought you would never see is still something that could be historic. They could build that once-in-a-lifetime type of deal between Sting and The Undertaker and build it to something really, really worthwhile. Now, reports are saying that The Undertaker was taken to a hospital after WrestleMania due to a severe concussion. That would explain why he kind of had that very dazed look in his eye. So although my heart was broken, I definitely didn't want him to, be so bad that he could never really make a return. Has he retired? I don't know. I don't think so. After inducting his dear friend Paul Bearer, the induction of his friend Paul Bearer this weekend, and this matchup with Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman did actually mention that they showed the signs. It kind of was pointing towards an end, and the music that they were playing was really leading towards an end. But what a way to go. And as we mentioned, we see the end of one era and the start of a new one. As Daniel Bryan finally wins the big one at the grandest stage of it all, WrestleMania. Although the sheer shock of the streak ending totally silenced the crowd. I mean, they were just completely dumbfounded, in shock, upset, hurt, surprised. That I felt bad for the Divas because they really didn't have much of a chance to really get the crowd going anyway. Those who've ever followed an Undertaker match at WrestleMania know that. But when they seen Daniel win the title, I think it definitely helped pick it up a little bit. And congrats to him. He deserves it. But today's guest, we were supposed to have wrestling legend Brian Blair of the Killer Bees of the 1980s, wrestling fame with the WWF, WWE. He also wrestled in Championship Wrestling from Florida. And he's done quite a few other things, and I'm going to go ahead and attempt to call him. I'm just hoping at this point that there's no problem because we definitely made it sure it was an early show. I just don't know if Austin may have gotten the memo on that. And if that's the case, so be it. I have no problem running the show on my own. So without any further ado, folks, I'm going to go ahead and call our guest and see what we can do.
Hi, this is Brian. I can't get to the phone right now, but if you kindly leave your name and number, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks a lot and have a wonderful day.
I get the feeling that maybe my guest didn't get the memo either. And you know what? If that's the case, we may have to reschedule this to another time. That being said, we'll just continue to talk a little bit, and then I'll try again. I'll try up to 3 times, and if all else fails, we'll have to just schedule Mr. Blair for another time. That being said, the Raw going into Monday night, there was so much speculation whether or not Sting would make an appearance. They showed a video of him at I want to say like some kind of fan interaction thing, and he hinted around the fact that he said his favorite number now is 31. As I said, don't necessarily count away the fact that Sting-Undertaker match can still happen. This would be a good way to kind of put an exclamation point on both of their careers. The streak, yes, it hurt that we had to see it end, but one loss does not define a man's legacy. So many memories, so many matches, so many different opponents and legendary figures the Undertaker has put down in his career speaks for itself. One loss does not define this man's career. He is, without a doubt, the greatest of all time, the greatest creation of Vince McMahon. And you know what? Vince created the character, but Undertaker made it work. He made it his own. He took it on, and that's all there is to it. And as far as Sting goes, Sting is always, their careers have always run parallel. Both been definitely the face of their companies for many years. So always stayed loyal to their companies. And during the Attitude Era, people always speculated if we would ever see a match between the two. Well, yes, they are older. Sting is a little bit older than Undertaker, and he can still move. For a man in his 50s, he can still move. Undertaker, given the time, the rest that he could recoup, build up to one more WrestleMania without the streak on the line, I'm only imagine how much pressure it's taken off of him already to have to outdo himself year after year after year after year after year. It gets hard. You know, that's why you don't see, as the years went on, you don't see him doing so many high-flying stunts that he used to do. But I do think that these two could give us one really good send-off match for the both of them and see them both happily retire. I knew it would come. I just was hoping that it would come a lot later in my life. The reason I say that is because I've seen a lot of my heroes already retire or sadly pass on, and he was really the only one left. And by him, I mean The Undertaker. Sting, I'm definitely a fan of. I respect the man for all he's done in the sport of professional wrestling, even during the days of WCW, and the fact that he had the heart to go to TNA Wrestling and help them kind of get off the ground a bit. He's done it, and he's done well. But I think it's time for him to do the unthinkable and finally come in and work for the man nobody ever thought he would work for, Vince McMahon. It'll happen, folks. Don't doubt it. Now, as far as Raw goes, as I mentioned, speculation about Sting was kind of going rampant. People were thinking he was going to appear. Usually the Raws after after WrestleMania are usually crazy. Well, last night was no exception. The crowd was electric. They were loud, and they let you know what they liked. They were still doing the fandangoing. The Yes movement was in full effect. And they're going to let Brian have his glory. they're going to obviously put it off to the next pay-per-view, just have him defended against probably Randy or Batista, or even, for all we know, Triple H again. But we've seen some changes, some debuts, some soon-to-be debuts. We've seen Paige come in and win the Divas Championship on her first night on Raw, ending the long reign of AJ. We saw the debut of Alexander Rusev, Austin's favorite. Austin was just about wetting himself seeing that guy. But definitely a force to be reckoned with the lovely, I want to say Oksana, but I believe it's Alana. I want to say Alana. I could be wrong. We've seen the Shield turn on the Authority and side with Daniel. And the fact that Bray Wyatt, you can't say that this kid is not over. He is so over, it's ridiculous. His match with Cena definitely put him on the map. Now, the inner fan in me would say I would have loved to see Cena take a loss to this guy, but I guess they figured he wasn't ready for that yet. Be that as it may, his uniqueness and unique approach into this match, the hype, the build, everything they put into this was well worth it. It was an enjoyable match to watch. And I don't think that the Bray Wyatt-John Cena saga has ended just yet. I really don't. But the fact that you can't say that the Wyatts are not over. They are over, big time. And the fact that, if you recall, Leo Kruger in NXT, he wasn't really going anywhere. He was kind of dwindling. He was this crazy Aussie, and I would say Australian-type guy. And that's about it. They transform him into Adam Rose, and the dude's already kind of make a debut on Raw here in a couple weeks. That was amazing. He kind of gives me the rub of being like a Austin Powers, international man of mystery kind of thing with his entourage. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But also we see they're going to see a soon-to-be debut of the Bo Lever himself, Bo Dallas. Interesting, I think. I like the idea of bringing the new guys in. It's just sad because a lot of my childhood heroes are already pretty much retired or done, and I just don't want to see it end. Well, I'm not going to cry about it. It is what it is. I've accepted it. It's been 48 hours now. Going to go ahead and try to attempt to call Mr. Blair one more time. If not, we'll continue on in the discussion here. Here we go.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Blair?
Yes.
This is Felix. Did I catch you at a bad time, sir?
Felix, no, you caught me at a good time. What's happening?
I was just ready to see because I had attempted to call you a few minutes before to kind of go over, but we kind of did talk about it yesterday a little bit. But you are on the air with me now.
All right. Okay, that's great, Felix.
I just want to make sure you're aware of that. So but just a few questions I want to ask. I won't take too much of your time. I actually wanted to ask how did you get your start in professional wrestling? I mean, were you a young man? Were you a fan of professional wrestling? Did you get your you were just a kid and became a fan and just kind of got into it? How did you get your start?
Actually, I got caught taking food stamps to Egypt Lake Elementary School in Tampa, Florida, when I was I was in 5th grade, and these bullies, Steve Epperson and other guys, they were picking on me, and I went to school the next day after they caught me. My mom would never let me go to the school to the store at Sly in Armenia to get groceries because we were getting this powdered eggs, powdered milk, all this ugly stuff. At the time, I was watching wrestling and was really into the Eddie Graham, Boris Malenko, stuff like that. When I got in the line and I didn't have any money because my mom didn't give me money, she gave me coupons, and they caught me doing that. they started calling me names and everything right there in the grocery store, and I went home. I didn't say anything at all. And when I got home, I was just glad that we were going to eat some chicken and some real meat and have some good food. And I was excited about that and tried to forget about the bullies. And so I had a great night. Great stomach was full, and I went to school. My mom dropped me off about 300 yards before school, so nobody could see her drop me off. And when she did, I walked to the school, and there was a whole bunch of people gathered around the school. And they, as I walked up toward the school, they said, "Hey, there's Blair, there's Blair." And I started walking up and looking, and all of a sudden I read they had written in green spray paint that, some words I can't even say. It was so nasty. So I ran all the way home crying. And this teacher named Mr. Aguilano, he's still alive today, still talks about the story. And, he came and motivated me and said, you can be what you want to be. Don't worry about these kids. They're bad kids. And, they, get their joy by other people being hurt. And, you can be whatever you want to be. So I said, well, I think I could be a professional wrestler. He said, you can be whatever you want to be. And so from that moment on, I wrestled hard in school and played football and track and field and all kinds of different sports. And matter of fact, I think I still have the record at Tampa Bay Tech High School and wound up going to the University of Louisville and St. Leo College. And Eddie Graham and Jack Briscoe and others used to come watch me wrestle, and they asked me if I wanted to try out at Championship Wrestling from Florida, and of course I did. It was my dream come true. It was a big giant wish that actually may have even started before that, which is another story. But I started at Championship Wrestling from Florida, and they put me through the mill for 3 summers. Paul Orndorff, Hogan, and myself are the only 3 that made it.
You were trained by Hiro Matsuda, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Hiro Matsuda was a tough son of a gun. I threw up the first 2 times I threw up when I was there. I just regurgitated everywhere. There's nothing left. They put you through the total mill. And third day I got there and rolled out of the ring, just totally gassed, and lifted my chin up with his foot, and he said, "Hey, boy, what's the matter? You puke today." And I said, "Well, Mr. Matsuda, I haven't eaten since the last time I puked." And so he laughed, and after that, it was kind of like he liked me. It was good.
Now, I heard there is a rumor. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it's a rumor, but I've heard that Matsuda would train guys. He would work them so hard and purposely in order for them to quit, because he really didn't, just kind of weed out who he thought would make it. And I believe even Hogan and I believe Pat Tanaka, just a few others that I can think of were trained by him, of course, and yourself as well. Is there any truth to that? Did he kind of work you guys hard enough to where he could see if you guys really were worth making it in the wrestling business?
Oh, absolutely, brother. It was, I'll tell you, Tommy, it was just, it was like going through 2-a-day. I can't even describe it. Harder than 2-a-days in college football, twice as hard as that, and it was like they were really trying to hurt you and run you off, and they knew how to do it. So you had to find a way to make them like you and make them know that you had some heart before they would keep you.
Oh yeah, I believe that.
So Scott Hall, he came, tried, and went. Danny Spivey, a lot of different guys, and they wound up coming back and breaking in later, but they quit the first time.
And working down in Championship Wrestling with from Florida with the Grahams, what was that like? I've heard that was such a great place to. The atmosphere was so much fun. I think they did really good. They made really good money during their time when they were open down there. What are some fond memories you have working down in Florida?
Oh, it was awesome. I just had great times with the Briscoes, Steve Kern, Pat Patterson, Ivan Koloff. Just some of the greats in the business. so many Bruiser Brody, so many people passed through here. I mean, I had fun and learned a lot from, just Dan Stasiak. I mean, Dusty Rhodes and Dirty Dick Murdoch and guys that a lot of people don't even remember their names, but were just so tremendous workers. And Bob Backlund for a long time. We working on stretching and Carl Gotch, and we had to learn how to hurt people. I mean, I didn't like to do that, but that's what during the summers you'd have to wrestle these other smart aleck guys that thought they deserved the main event with Dusty Rhodes. The first time they put a pair of purchased boots on. So it was you had a role. Once they accepted you had a role, and that role was A, to learn, and B, to keep out anybody that didn't have what it took, didn't have the desire, didn't have the fortitude.
And how did you get noticed by New York? I mean, was it Vince Sr. or was it still Vince Jr.? Was Vince Jr. running things at the time when you'd come aboard, or was Vince Sr. still around?
Vince Sr. was the first one to bring me into New York. And
how did you guys get noticed? Or how did you get noticed?
I don't know. The rumor was going around. I know that in Dave Meltzer's dirt sheets, I was voted the most underrated wrestler, and that was around 80, and that's when Vince Sr. brought me in. So, maybe I owe Dave a big thank you. I don't know how exactly, but he called me and asked me to come in there. It was great because from there it sprung off to Japan, and from Japan, I went to so many other countries, and it was fabulous. I've wrestled I've had over 5,000 wrestling matches, been in over 40 countries where I've wrestled, and wrestled in every major city, over 100,000 people in the United States of America. I mean, there's some big stuff happening, like the Cauliflower Alley Club on June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
I definitely wanted to talk to you about that as well.
Vegas, that's coming up. And then the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. But can you give me 1 second while I drop this off? 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Yeah,
I'll be
go
right
for
with
it.
you.
Go ahead. No problem. And for our listeners tonight, for today, if you guys are listening in, if you guys want to call in and listen, you can. Area code 347-202-0399. You can listen in to legendary superstar Brian Blair as we talk about his career in professional wrestling, folks. Hopefully you are able to listen. If not, it will be available later on our on demand, and later this week it will be available on our YouTube channel as well. So make sure if you can't watch it, if you can't listen in today, you will have different ways you can listen in later this week. Definitely don't want to miss out on any of this interview. Definitely a great guy to talk to. Been up through the business back in the territory days. Professional wrestling, championship wrestling from Florida. Working with some great trainers. I've heard some stories about Matsuda. I definitely have. But are you back, Mr. Blair?
Yes, sir, I am, and I started thinking about Hiro Matsuda, and you know what happened? I just took a little break, poured down a jug of Hazel's honey from Hazel's Honey Hut, and now, my friend, I'm ready for some toe tapping, for some wing flapping, and a little bit of jaw jacking. So I got my psyche back on, and I'm ready to roll. So let's talk, bro.
All right, I like that. And we get in there, and you were talking. You'd gotten noticed by Vince Sr., and he brought you in. And the formation. I'm curious. With the formation of the Killer Bees, how did that come about?
Well, probably that came about. Hulk Hogan called me and he said, "Vince is looking for a tag team. There's a guy named Jim Brunzell that I worked with because, of course, Vince Jr. stole him from Vern.
Uh-huh.
And, the High Flyers were in the AWA with Vern, and that was Greg Gagne and Jim Brunzell. And he said, he wants a tag team. He wants you, and he wondered if you wouldn't mind having Jim Brunzell as a tag team partner. I suggested that you guys would be good together. And I said, I don't know anything about Jimmy, but I heard he's just an awesome guy and a great wrestler and worker and jump like anybody. And we kind of gelled. We met in Brantford, Canada, and the rest was history.
Absolutely. You guys did have a good career in the WWE, and after that, I'm curious because we kind of wonder what happened after that. I mean, did you go on to wrestle in the independents for a little while? Did you ever get a chance to work in WCW?
Well, I had a contract for WCW, and then there was a dispute with Eric Bischoff. The best thing that happened, well, I kept working independent and going to Japan. Since
Gotcha.
When I left in late '89, I was going to Japan. I was going all around the world. I mean, from Italy to, just so many places. If you look at my passport, it'll freak you out. I've wrestled in a place called Kota Kinabalu in the island of Saba. How many people have ever heard of that? And,
I don't think I can even say that.
So it was a great opportunity. It allowed me to open up my businesses. I opened up One Gold's Gym, which turned into Four Gold's Gyms, and still kept wrestling during that time. The only time I didn't wrestle since I left WWF, right before WrestleMania 5, was when I was the county commissioner from 2004 through 2008, and that was a lot of fun. But I actually wrestled not long ago until I just kind of tore my quad tendon. I had been wrestling quite a bit of independent, just spot shows still. I mean, I love the business. You can take the wrestler out of the ring, but you can't take the ring out of the wrestler.
That's what I have heard, and definitely from the previous guests that I've had on, some you may be familiar with, Tito Santana, Blackjack Mulligan, Bruno Sammartino, some great guys we've had on, and all of them, and I know you probably can attest to this by saying that all of them had nothing but the best to say about Mr. McMahon Sr., said he was such a remarkable man that his word was his bond. He was a man of his word.
He sure was. He was great. I'll never forget the time we were in Poughkeepsie Television. Hulkster and I were talking, and Vince was he'd stand in the line just like everybody else to go pee in this little trailer thing and little ramp, and we're sitting there talking to each other, and Vince goes in to pee, and Terry came up with something that was real wild, and Vince started laughing real hard. Well, he never flushed the toilet. He turned around, and he said, "Okay, guys, I got to go out and talk to you in a few," and all of a sudden I hear Terry goes, "Brian, look, hey, look." And we looked, and the whole bowl was full of blood. And not realizing, nobody knew that Vince had prostate cancer, I guess, really bad. And so that was kind of a very, very sad thing. And we didn't understand it like Junior did. And Vince Sr. taught Junior how to dominate the world. Of course, Sr. wouldn't do it because he had too much respect, admiration, and too much class, so to speak. I mean, he wouldn't go step on the...
Do you keep in contact with Hogan at all, or do you guys say hi from time to time?
Yeah, from time to time. I mean, we're not, the Linda thing and all that. It was really hard.
Of Clearwater, where the Bushwhacker Luke's gym's at all? Do you ever visit Bushwhacker Luke?
I just talked to him just a couple days ago because we're doing a show called Bash at the River on May 10th, and I wanted Luke on the show, but he was already booked. So, we were up in West Virginia. We were up in North Carolina just a month ago.
Wow.
Working on shows. I can't believe he's still going. I mean, Luke's in his 60s, and I'm, he's got 10 years.
And
I know he's got 15.
You guys definitely are going out and meeting the people and keeping it going. We had Luke on this past December, and he was such an amazing guy. He I couldn't tell for a second whether he was being serious or joking, but I realized after talking to him for a few minutes that was his sense of humor. He liked to make you think he was serious when all the while he's sitting back laughing at you because he thinks that you're worried that you might have made him mad. And oh no, he's just laughing. I'm just kidding, mate. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, he's a very intellectual guy. I was having dinner with him about a month ago. I think it was in North Carolina. And he really impressed me with his intellect. He worked a lot in the Puerto Rican territory booking for Carlos Colon, and he did really well there. And you've got to be a bright person to be a booker and to keep up with what you got to know to be a booker. So that's a step above just being a wrestler.
Awesome. And speaking of that, we kind of touch on the subject of Hogan returning to the WWE after being gone for a while. He's kind of been in and out. And also to see Carlos Colon go into the WWE Hall of Fame. And I'm sure you get asked this question hundreds of times. If Vince or even Triple H approached you about you and Jim going into the Hall of Fame together, would you accept?
Absolutely, without a doubt. But I'm really excited about going to what everybody's considered the real Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Amsterdam, New York. I mean, this place is incredible that they have, and a guy named Tony Villano, who never knew anything about wrestling other than they didn't have an actual Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, started this place almost 15 years ago. And there's 3 stories of memorabilia from just about every wrestler that you could ever name. I mean, I think they got Moolah's first tight. You don't want to get too close to those. But there's everything. Hogan's boots. There's films of all the guys. They've got Lucha Libre. They've got everything there. It's just the most incredible thing. And so I'm just so honored that I get to MC I guess it's the 14th annual Hall of Fame awards banquet. And they give away Super Bowl style rings, and that's a Hall of Fame that I'd really like to be inducted. I mean, I've been honored at the Cauliflower Alley Club, which is my favorite group of all time. It's the largest group. It's the largest professional wrestling organization in the world. They've had over 8,000 members. They've got like 1,000 active members right now. It's just a blast if you go there. So that's coming up in June. Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame's the 15th and 16th of May. A lot of things happening in the wrestling world. WrestleMania just happened. It was awesome WrestleMania.
Did you actually watch it?
Yeah, it was one of the best WrestleManias I think I've seen. I mean,
really? Yeah, that's an awesome opinion. Yeah, most people they felt like they were put on a roller coaster of emotion. I mean, for one thing, they started out the show with three guys who you never thought you'd see in the ring together, Hogan, Austin, and The Rock. I thought that was definitely a great way to kind of get the show started, and then ultimately to see the streak of The Undertaker end. That kind of broke a lot of people's hearts, but, it is a part of the show. This was his choice, and I think Brock should consider himself very honored that The Undertaker chose him. That's just my opinion.
Absolutely. You know what that reminds me of? You can correlate that to Andre allowing Hogan to slam him in WrestleMania 3. And that's what. Yes, it's a good analogy, and in my opinion, and I'm glad you agree, Tommy. But I just I'm really I thought it may not have been the very best WrestleMania of all time. There's just so many great spots from all the WrestleManias, but overall, it got my emotions and the fans' emotions, and it told a story, and it told a story very well. I was really pleased with the show.
That's cool. And I was going to ask you, excuse me, I'm losing my voice there. Now that they have started their WWE network and fans get to be reintroduced to generations of past, from your generation and all the way up to even now, even probably even before your generation up to now, you know, do you get more fans talking to you about, oh, I saw you on the WWE Network, you know, you wrestling in a tag team on, I guess what they deem it would be old school, WWE old school, I guess. But what are your thoughts on the new network?
I think it's fabulous. I think it's awesome that, well, even a few years ago, Tommy, we had ESPN2, or Vince had the ESPN2, and he was running classic stuff from different places, from UWF, or I don't know if that was Vince or who was doing it, but people were telling me all the time, hey, I saw you on ESPN2, I saw you on ESPN2. And I get the same thing now, only it's, you know, double and triple. I'm just waiting for my royalty check.
There you go. And, you know, we started to talk a little bit about, I read somewhere, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, I read somewhere that you are involved with the Cauliflower Alley in some way. Do you work with them? I mean, are you part of the committee or something like that? Yes,
I'm actually on the general board in charge of new membership.
Wow.
So, you know, everybody can go to caulifloweralleyclub.org. For $25, you can become a member. For $36 a night, you can spend the night for 3 nights with about 800 to 1,000 of the greatest people in the world, and the whole food and everything's $100. It's the cheapest vacation and good time you could ever have. You know, we have new WWE stars, really established WWE stars. We have independent wrestlers. There's probably about 300 different wrestlers that go there and about 600 fans. And they all gather into banquet rooms each night and go through the pictures and the memorabilia and the schools and there's so many programs and things to do. I mean, it's like you don't even realize that you can gamble.
You know, and I looked all over that too, and I know guys like God rest his soul, Percy Pringle, Paul Bear, you would go out there. Just recently I read something about Jake Roberts going out there. Just to name a few that I can think of off the top of my head. But I even believe that I saw a picture of Nick Bockwinkel making appearances there from time to time, and even Bobby Heenan.
Well, Nick Bockwinkel was a president. And, there's, you know, Bobby has been there a lot. Bobby lives not far, you know, he's hanging in there going through the cancer and stuff, but that's why it's great to go there. You know, Danny Hodge is there. Guys that, you know, you'll see, it's the who's who of wrestling. I mean, I can't even, Tommy, it would take me a long time to sit here and name after name after name of the people that are going to be there this year, but 2 of the honorees are Michael T.S. Hayes, of course, got lots of stories with Michael. And the fabulous Freebirds, he's one of the honorees, along with the Red Rooster, Terry Taylor. So they're being honored this year. So it's going to be, there'll be a lot of people there just to see those guys.
Absolutely, absolutely. And now you mentioned also that you still do traveling to some of the Legend shows. Do you still get in the ring from time to time, or are you more there to kind of do a meet and greet?
Absolutely. I love to work. I mean, if you go through my Facebook and you can go scroll down to a match with Manny Fernandez and I that was in El Paso, Texas about 6 months ago. And Manny's like, you know, 59 years old. He's older than I am, but the guy worked his butt off. And even though there were only a couple hundred people there, because this guy had no clue of what he was doing, but he paid us. So that's just how the independent scenes are. You know, you go get paid, you go meet your friends. Sometimes you have a great crowd, and sometimes you have a skinny crowd. But we worked just as hard on that skinny crowd as we did on a great crowd. But, I mean, you go look at that, and I'm not just saying this, and I credit Manny for it. I'm a humble person, but people said that we had the best match of the night. And, you know, they'll be the judge. And it's because of the old school psychology that we used, along with, you know, sucking it up and working hard and hitting the ropes hard rather than, you know, coming off the top rope. I come off the second rope. But, you know, still do many of the things that I did as a 20-year-old.
Absolutely.
What?
And when from going back to when you got your start to nowadays, where guys can get their start, back then they had territory days where you could go to different territories and get better as time went on, and eventually if you went to one of the big spots like New York or even down Mid-South, Florida, even Jim Crockett, or anywhere else where you can continue to get better, they don't have that now. Now, whereas WWE has tend to kind of gobbled up everything, and really they have their performance center. I mean, if you were to talk to a youngster who wanted to come in and get into the business, what advice would you offer?
Well, until recently, it's true. You're 100% right. WWE has a corner on the market. Of course, there's TNA, which is in second place. You've got ROH. You've got traditional championship wrestling, out of Arkansas. There's still a lot of places. And, I talked to Jay Lethal.
Started one too.
Yeah, I just talked to Jay Lethal, for example. I think he worked with TNA for a little while.
Yes,
and he's booked constantly. I mean, he's working 4 or 5 days a week. He's not making the WWE money, but he's making a living, and if that break comes up, he'll be there because he'll be a seasoned talent that they can use. But he's probably making, I don't want to give away his money, but he's making a good living. Still doing that. So there is a lot of places to go to. It's not like the territories. Absolutely not. Nothing like the territories. The territories were great, and Florida was without a doubt one of the best territories you could possibly work in. And also, not only was Florida one of the best territories that you could possibly work in, then you had places like where the Von Erichs were. I lived with David Von Erich for a year and a half. And what a lesson that was, just wrestling there for Fritz and watching the Von Erichs go through their trials and tribulations. Fritz would put an extra $100 in my paycheck every week, just trying to keep an eye on the boys for him, which was hard to do. But it was fun, and I worked in '85. The Atlanta territory, when their cable, actually they were the first ones to, they went into the Sheik's territory, into Columbus and the Ohio towns, and Tommy Rich, and Tony Atlas, and Tito Santana, and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, and a lot of the stars that from the past. I mean, we're all there, pioneering those initial takeover, so to speak. But it wasn't the territory now. Now it was like a takeover. You're in somebody else's backyard, and nobody knows what's going to happen. So it was kind of scary, too, in a way. I mean, there was a lot of threats to the boys from different promoters. There were a lot of things going on that were, a lot of people would get threatened if they worked here or there, especially like Blair and Hogan and a lot of the real superstars would, they'll get threatened sometimes.
And I wanted to ask too, do you still keep in touch with Mr. Brunzell? Or do you run into each other at Cauliflower Alley? Or
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'm going straight from Cauliflower Alley. Get this, I get in on the, I leave the night of the 4th at like 11:30. It's still the 4th. I get into Tampa, Florida at 8:30, and then I'm leaving from Tampa at 9:30 because I got to pick up some stuff. Pictures and a whole bunch of different stuff that I want to lug there. And plus, I just got to get new clothes and all other stuff. But I'll have delivered to me at the airport because I got a 9:50 flight out to Niagara Falls, Canada for Comic-Con, where Brunzie will be at. They had 15,000 people there last year. And so Jimmy and I will be there for 4 days signing autographs. It'd be a lot of fun.
Wow. That's crazy. You guys continue to stay so busy, and I can't even imagine how much you guys enjoy this. You guys enjoy interacting with your fans over, some that have grown up watching you, some that are being reintroduced to you, and just, wow, that's just amazing. I would love, actually, I've read a little bit about the Cauliflower Alley that I think would be an ultimate fan dream vacation kind of thing, to go meet some of their great, the old time greats, and even some of the new time greats, and I think it would be a fun time to go down there and just kind of hang out and watch the whole ceremony and so forth.
Oh, absolutely. And if you do come, please say hello and come have a Diet Coke or beer with us and enjoy yourself. And I'll introduce you to some of the guys. Tommy, it's a lot of fun. But while you're on the fans, I know a lot of people do, but without the fans, we would be nothing. And I just appreciate the fans. That's why I'm still a fan. I love being a fan, and I'll always be a fan. But I appreciate the fans that always, whether they cheered for me, booed for me, they bought a ticket. And without that, I could have never made a living. And so I owe them, and that's why, not being a spring chicken, I'll still get out there and work as hard as anybody, just the same work ethic I've always had. And, just, again, I do that because I know how money is, and money's tight nowadays. It always has been, is the way I was taught. I told you my food stamp story. So when I got in the ring, I wanted to make sure that those fans, every fan, that I signed their autograph, that I shook hands with them, if that's what they wanted. But most of all, that I worked as hard as I could so that they could see a good match.
Absolutely, and that's definitely appreciated. And I want to ask, because I know in this generation, a lot of the guys who have retired now or no longer in the wrestling business have gone different routes to keep entertaining. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example of something like a Steve Austin show or the Chris Jericho podcast, or even Jim Ross, who's no longer with WWE, but he does his own show. I believe Cauliflower does a similar thing with their own podcast, but you yourself, Mr. Blair, would you ever consider doing something like that?
Well, absolutely. I think I got one run left as the commissioner, because I'm the only person, think about this, I'm the only wrestler that's had over 1 million people vote for him. I'm not a pretend commissioner, I'm a real commissioner that that really knows how to balance a budget, that really knows what the Robert's Rules of Orders are, and that really knows how to be a commissioner. So I can see myself as the commissioner, formerly the Killer Bee, but the commissioner. And I'd love to have a run as the commissioner. As the real commissioner. So if that ever comes up, I'll be there for that.
Well, I want to go ahead and just thank you so much for taking time to sit down and chat with me for a little bit. I really do appreciate it. Definitely good to go back and remember some of the good times. And the fact that you still keep up is definitely awesome. I'm very glad to hear that you keep up with everything as well. Some tend to kind of, once they're gone, they're completely out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And you're not. I appreciate that. I think that's awesome.
Well, I appreciate you, Tommy, man. That's great that you give us the opportunity to be on your show. I appreciate the opportunity, and I wish your show lots of success. And, I'm going to keep on buzzing, and I hope you do too, and, hope to run into each other one of these days soon.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much again for joining me today. I hope you enjoy your day, sir.
I hope you enjoy your day, Tommy, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, and check out my Facebook, man. I love new friends on Facebook, so any fans that are listening, you, Tommy, I know we're Facebook friends, but get on that Facebook. I put some new interesting stuff in there all the time, from Legends Lunch to, just all kinds of stuff. I'll give you directions. Oh, yes, sir. I think it's funny. Take care, Tommy. You're the man.
All right, bye-bye. The one and only Brian Blair of the Killer Bees. Definitely an enjoyable conversation. Folks, I do, who may not have gotten the memo that we were going to be on early today, that's quite all right. It happens. We've had similar, but you know what, like I said, whether it was me and Austin, me or just Austin, we get put in predicaments we get our way out of it. And yes, maybe not many would have been able to listen today, but like I said, It is other ways you can listen to us if you can't be live. It is on demand and through our YouTube channels. And as far as I know, next week we will actually be having announcer Ken Resnick, who worked for WWE briefly. I believe he worked with AWA. If I'm not mistaken, I can always find out from him word of mouth. And currently works, I believe, in TCW, Traditional Championship Wrestling. Anyways, we touched on that today from Arkansas. But next week, Ken Resnick will be joining us. Normal time, unless something changes, we will be letting you guys know on our social media. I hope you guys all enjoyed today's interview. Coming off of such a huge WrestleMania, we can get things back to normal again. Austin will be back next week. In the meantime, this is Felix for Pipebomb Radio saying keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Good night, everybody. Take care now.